Hi, thank you so much for joining us in our study today. We're going to be looking at 1 Peter. We're going to be looking at 1 Peter chapter 1. I'm going to go ahead and start by reading the first few verses of 1 Peter chapter 1, starting in verse 3. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who according to his great mercy has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, to obtain an inheritance which is imperishable and undefiled and will not fade away, reserved in heaven for you, who are protected by the power of God through faith for a salvation ready to be revealed in the last time. In this you greatly rejoice, even though now for a little while, if necessary, you have been distressed by various trials, so that the proof of your faith, being more precious than gold, which is perishable, even though tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Have you ever received an inheritance from your grandparents or someone else in your family? A common inheritance that many of my friends and neighbors often talk about is receiving that fine china, those old Chinese pieces from a grandparent or a great-grandparent. And what do you do with that fine china? What do you do with those plates and those bowls? You don't do anything with them. You keep them stored. You move them from house to house. You move them from the house to the garage, from the garage to the house. And the reason you never use them is probably because you don't want anything to happen to them. You don't want to break a glass. You don't want to chip a mug. You don't want to ruin it. You don't want stains to show up. So you just keep it stored because you realize that it's perishable. And that's the difference between receiving an earthly inheritance and the inheritance that Peter talks about here. The inheritance that we receive from Jesus Christ is imperishable. And not only is it imperishable, but it is like refined gold. It is extremely valuable. It is something so precious. Now, in the context of 1 Peter, what is he writing about? He's saying your faith, your inheritance, is so imperishable that not even the suffering and the tribulation can ruin it. It can't be destroyed by fire, and in fact, it becomes more valuable, more refined through the testing of this life. As he goes on to say in chapter 5, I'm writing these things to you to remind you of God's grace, so that you might see God's grace. Have you been valuing your inheritance in that sense? Do you see how precious it is? How it will never be corrupted by anything in this life, no matter the anguish or the tribulation or the present day distress? Do you treasure it as something that is better and more precious than even refined gold? Because that's the inheritance we have waiting for us. The inheritance that awaits us in Jesus Christ will not fade away. It will not be defiled. And it is imperishable. Thank you so much for joining us in our study today. If you have any questions or you want to know more about this faith that is available to you, we want to study with you. If there's any way that we can study with you, please reach out to us with the emails that follow the conclusion of this video. Or if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thank you so much. God bless.